Okay, thank you everybody for being here. Let's go ahead and dive right into this. I'm really excited to be sharing this strategy today because the timing is allowing us to use a particular financing strategy that we haven't seen for probably more than 10 or 12 years. And the reason for that is that over the past 10 years, after the market crash, the feds got involved, the government got involved, and started manipulating down interest rates. Well, they've since pulled back, and now we're starting to see a normalized market. Now, interest rates are going up, but they're still really, really historically low. When we were using this strategy 10, 15 years ago, we were more like in the 6% range as far as interest rates go. So this is still just as valid of a strategy. Now, one of the things that I want you to understand as you watch this, I've named this presentation "How Home Buyers Beat Rising Interest Rates," but really what we're talking about is we're talking about an opportunity for buyers to win, for sellers to win, and for real estate agents to win. Because right now, there are a lot of changes in the market, and when the market changes, people start to panic. The first thing that happens when people panic is home buyers kind of take a step back, right? You pause a little bit. You're like, whoa! The interest rates just went up, and now I don't qualify for as much as I qualified for a little while ago. All of these homes that are listed for sale, if you look at homes that are listed for sale now, you're going to start seeing a lot of homes that are doing big price reductions. Now, some real estate agents are saying that these are price improvements, but it's not an improvement for the seller. The seller has to drastically reduce the price of their home, that what could potentially be the actual value of their home, but they're having to sell it less because interest rates go up and buyers can't afford as much. And so offers are starting to come in, and they're coming in lower and lower below the listing price. So if the seller wants to sell their home, they've got to lower their sales price. So when you're buying a home, if you're a home buyer, if you're a home seller, there's a negotiation that takes place. You list your home, the home seller lists their home for sale at a certain price. The home buyer can afford a certain amount, and the home buyer makes an offer. The home seller looks at it, they either accept it or they counter offer. So in any negotiation, they say that the best possible outcome in any negotiation is that all parties walk away feeling like they got the best deal. And that is exactly what I'm going to talk to you about today. With this particular financing strategy, everybody wins. Everybody wins here. So let's talk about, first of all, what the heck why we're even talking about this strategy. Well, first of all, let's look at what interest rates are doing. So back before the crash, we used to look, when I say we, I'm talking about mortgage professionals, we used to kind of keep an eye on the 10-year Treasury yield. The trend of the 10-year Treasury was sort of mimicked what long-term 30-year fixed rates were doing. So there is no direct correlation, but the trend runs pretty parallel with what 30-year fixed interest rates do. So if you look at this chart here, you'll see it starts back in August and it goes all the way up. I want to say this is about November 5th. So it's just the first week of November. Now that line that you're seeing, that's about a 0.5% increase in interest rates. Now I've got the word danger zone written up there on this slide. And the reason I put that there is there's that 3.25 yield on the 10-year Treasury is sort of it's kind of like a line in the sand. And there are people that are way smarter than me about how markets move and what affects interest rates and where interest rates are going to go. And most of the people that I trust and that I respect are drawing a line in the sand at this 3.25, and what they're saying is that if the 10-year Treasury goes above this 3.25, that it's very, very likely that the next stop is going to be 3.75, and it's going to happen sooner than later. So what does that mean exactly? Well, you see that we're flirting with the 3.25 level right now. I think today we've pulled back just a little bit, and now we're closer to like the 3. I think we're a little bit closer to like 3.15, 3.17. The markets literally change all day, every single day. So it's hard to really nail this down. And if you're watching this video at some point in the future, like past November 15th, 2018, then these numbers could be completely different, which brings me to my next point. We're going to be talking about a lot of numbers here. We're going to be talking about interest rates. Now, the interest rates that I'm using in this presentation were actual interest rates at the time that I put this presentation together. But the actual interest rate is not important. What we're looking at is the trends. We're looking at the trends and we're looking at the spreads between interest rates. And those numbers are still going to be accurate. So don't get hung up on what the actual interest rates are. Pay closer attention to what the spread is between two interest rates and what the trends are as we move forward. So what does it mean going from 3.25 to 3.75? Well, going from where we were at about 2.75 back in August to where we are today, that's been about 0.5% in interest rate. Actually, it's a little bit more. I'm going to show you that here in a second. So what we're really talking about here, what's driving these, well, it's not what's driving the changes. What's driving the changes is the market is normalizing. We're going back to a normal market. The economy is on fire. Unemployment is at record lows. Wages are going up. Things are going generally pretty good right now for the most part, and at least in the financial markets. And so that's what's causing interest rates to normalize and interest rates to go up. So what does that mean exactly? Now, what that directly impacts is your affordability as a home buyer. So the cost of money is going up. So as sort of a rule of thumb, about 1% in interest rate, a 1% interest in interest rate is going to be right around 10% plus or minus in price reduction. So let me show you how this works. So this is an actual scenario. Back on August 20th, you could get a 4.5% interest rate. Let's say at a 4.5% interest rate, you qualified for a maximum of $450,000 purchase price, right? So if fast forward to November 5th, interest rates are now at 5%. Your maximum purchase price that you qualify for is now $424,000. Now that's a little bit less than a 6% difference in interest rate. Now, if you were pre-approved back in August and you haven't talked to your loan officer since, I'm sorry, but this is going to be a little bit of a shock to your system because the payment that you were told back in August is now much higher. But what we're really talking about today is how to get your interest rate back down so that we can get your payment back to where it was prior to this last jump that we had where we saw interest rates jump up about 0.5%. So I'm going to show you how to get back from that 0.5% higher to reduce that interest rate 0.5% lower so that you can afford more home and you can keep the same payment that you had before. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to do this in a way that everybody wins. Now, what this strategy is as a home buyer, you're going to ask the seller to pay money to reduce your interest rate. It's called discount points. When you ask the seller to help pay for the costs of your loan. It's called seller concessions. So we're going to use those seller concessions and we're going to apply them specifically towards discount points to buy down your interest rate. Now, let me show you how let me explain to you on kind of a high level why this is so amazing. I'm going to show you exactly how you ask the seller to give you money to buy down your interest rate, and they are going to be excited about it, right? Because they are actually going to make more money by selling you the home and buying down your interest rate. All right, so now that I've laid that out, and it sounds kind of crazy and unrealistic, let's dial this thing in and show you exactly what we're looking at. So I'm going to go through 3 little price reductions. These are real opportunities in the market right now. So I went on to the multiple listing service and I found 3 properties. We're doing 1 property with a conforming loan limit. We're going to do 1 property we're going to do a straw house with a conforming loan limit. We're going to do a wood house with a high balance conforming loan limit. In California, we have high balance counties, so you can use traditional FHA and conventional financing for above the typical conforming loan limit. And then I'm going to show you how this works on a jumbo loan, which is higher than all of those. And that's when we start getting up above $700,000, $800,000, $1 million plus. So let's start with conforming. So this is a home that's in Corona, California. This home, at the time that I pulled it, it was on the market for 45 days, so a little bit over a month, and which is pretty unusual for quite some time now. Homes were not sitting on the market for 45 days. At 45 days, we're starting to think that something was probably wrong. So the price reduction on this property, so they listed the price for sale at $404. 45 days ago, so you remember from my previous slide, that's kind of smack dab in the middle of that 0.5% increase in interest rates. So what happened is interest rates were probably 1/4 or 3/8 higher than they were when they listed the home. And what happened is the buyers started all the offers that they were getting. Either they weren't getting any offers or all of the offers were for well below the listing price. So what did they do? They reduced the listing price. So in this particular scenario, this seller reduced the home price of their home by $16,000. Okay, pretty big swing. Now, the way that this strategy works, the first and foremost, we have to identify what the value of the property actually is, because the home has to appraise for whatever the contractual price is. So whatever you sign your contract for, we have to get an appraisal and it has to appraise for that price. So I did this is called an AVM, an automated valuation model, and it's an algorithm. It takes into account all of the conditions of the market, all of the trends of the market, and it kind of determines with some level of confidence, in this case it's a high level of confidence, of what the price range is or what this home may be worth. So this particular home, we have a range here of $375 to $415. They're saying maybe $495, close to, or $395, close to $396. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that we could probably get an appraisal. There's a decent chance we can get an appraisal at the original asking price of $404. Now, either the seller didn't get enough action on it or the buyers were all making low-priced offers, but an AVM is not perfect, so it really is going to just depend on what the specific amenities and the condition of the property, on what the view is and things like that. So let's look at what the seller did now. So what the seller did at this point is they did a price reduction. So you, Mr. Homebuyer, let's say you go in, you say, wow, this thing was lowered $16,000 from $404,000 to $388. That's amazing. I'm going to go in, take my FHA loan, put 3.5% down, and I'm going to buy this home with a 4.75% interest rate because that's where interest rates are today. You're going to have a payment just under $2,000, $1,987. Now, again, Don't pay attention to the numbers. The numbers I'm using for payments for comparison here is just the principal and interest. That is not your mortgage payment on this property, because you have property taxes and you have homeowners insurance that are always going to be included in that mortgage payment. But for the sake of this, just for the sake of this example, we're just doing principal and interest. So the price reduction strategy that the real estate agent chose on this one and the seller chose on this one is, let's reduce it. So you come in, you make an offer, you have a $1,987 payment with a 4.75% interest rate. Well, that's not bad. That's not bad. But what if we could ask the seller? What if we went in here? Here's what I'm suggesting. As a home buyer, you make an offer at the original $404,000 listing price, and you ask the seller, Mr. Seller, please pay me $5,945 to buy my interest rate down to 4.25%. And then that's going to give you, now look at this. You're buying a home for $404,000, not $388. You're buying it for $404, but because the interest rate is so much lower, your payment is actually $36 less. Now, there is even more benefit than just reducing your price, because you may be saying, well, wait a minute, why would I pay $404 if I could get it for $388? Well, I'm going to explain that to you. There's a lot of reasons why you would want to do that. Now, as a home buyer, you want the seller to benefit from accepting your offer. And that is exactly the competitive advantage that you now have by making this offer. Because let's look at what you just did. You actually lowered your payment by asking the seller, but your offer is going to stand out because while they just lowered their payment, their loan amount, or they lowered their purchase price to $388, you went in, offered them $404 minus the discount points. That seller is going to walk away with an extra $10,000 in their pocket. Now, you don't think that your offer is going to stand out amongst everybody else, every other buyer that's out there? So that's how powerful this strategy is. Who wins in this scenario? You win because your offer stands out. You get your offer accepted. Your payment actually goes down. I'm going to show you in a little bit that you're going to save tens of thousands of dollars in interest by reducing your interest rate from 4.75 to 4.25, and everybody wins in this scenario. So that's scenario number one. There's our straw house. Let's look at our wood house. This is high balance. So this is a property that's in Long Beach, California. It was originally listed 41 days ago for $597,000. So they recently either they weren't getting any traffic, they weren't getting any offers, or the offers that they were getting were coming in so low that they weren't accepting it. So between the real estate agent and the seller, they said, oh man, if we want to sell this house, we got to drop it $38,000. Now, this goes back to what I alluded to previously. You'll see these properties that are listed that say price improvement, right? Because they're trying to attract buyers. So that's a slick marketing strategy to try to attract buyers. But do you think it's an improvement for the seller? Or is the seller going to be stoked about making $38,000 less? That's a lot of money. That's just a lot of money. That's not an improvement for them. So not everybody's winning in that particular scenario. Now, I did an AVM on this property. I did an automated valuation, and I actually don't think that the property was ever worth $497. At least it's not worth $497 now. But I do think it's probably worth about $579. So maybe not $597, but maybe $579. So what would have happened is if somebody made an offer at $597 and you got an appraiser out there, the appraiser came in and the appraisal came in at like $579. Well, at that point, the seller is going to have to reduce the price because the bank will never lend more than what the property is worth. Or you as the buyer have to come in with the difference with cash. And that's not going to happen because that's just not going to happen. That's not fun. So let's look at look at what if you made an offer based on the reduced price of $559. So you have 3.5% down. We're talking about FHA loans again here. The interest rate on a high balance, it's a higher loan amount, high balance, a little bit higher risk. Interest rate's a touch higher, 4.875. Your payment is $2,904 on this particular property, making an offer on this particular home. Now, if we ask the seller to assist us by contributing concessions to pay discount points and buy down the interest rate, this is what this looks like. So let's say we've got the 579. No, actually, my numbers are wrong here. Ignore that. It's 597. No. Sorry. I got confused. So we're going to offer them 579, not the 559. We're going to offer them 579 instead of the 559 that they reduced the price to. So it's not the 597 they wanted, but it's probably more close to what it's actually going to appraise for. So let's offer them 579 instead of 559. Let's ask them for $7,700 in discount points. Let's roll that interest rate back, throw that interest rate in the interest rate time machine, flash that sucker back to August. Let's get a 4.375 interest rate. Now your payment is only $28.38, and your payment's actually $66 less than it is if you use today's interest rate and buy this home at the reduced price. So let's take a look at this. This home seller just reduced their home by, what did I say, $38,000? Well, we compromised with them, right? So the seller benefits because what we're talking about doing is putting an extra 12 grand in their pocket, right? Who's not going to be stoked about that? They're going to see that your offer is going to pop out because it's above asking price by $20,000, and all they have to do is give up $7,700. They still take home $12,000 more than they would have if they would have sold the home at $559,000. So you guys starting to see where I'm going with this? Are you starting to see the pattern that's happening here? Let's take a look at Jumbo. Now, this is a fun one for me because the numbers are so big, it's kind of shocking, right? So it's cool to see numbers this big because it really exaggerates the benefit of this strategy, and it really drills home the point of how much of an impact this strategy will make on both the buyers and the sellers. So this home is up in San Jose, up north. In Northern California. This has been, days on market is 44 days. So it's been on, again, you notice all of these properties been on the market about 45 days. So they listed the homes when interest rates were about 1/4 to 3/8 lower than they are today. So this home was listed for $1.2 million was the listing price. The new price is $1.1 million. So this seller just took $100,000 gut punch, right? Nasty. Nobody likes that. So I ran the valuation model. I'm looking at this thing. You look at these charts. Property values are still kind of trending up. And make no mistake, this is still kind of a seller's market. Property values are still going up, as they always will. They just may not be going up as quickly as they were before because temporarily, we're going through some market changes. So I think this property is probably worth $1.2 million. I think we could probably bring in an appraiser, an appraisal at 1.2, depending on, the amenities and the condition of the property. So let's look at making an offer as a buyer. Let's make an offer based on what they want to sell it for at $1.1 million as the listing price. Now, jumbo loan, we're putting 20% down. We got 5% interest rate on a 30-year fixed. We got a payment of about $5,700, right? Now, what is a discount? What does the seller assist strategy look like? What if we ask this seller for discount points? How many discount points? Well, first of all, Mr. Seller, I'm going to offer you the $1.2 million that you originally had your home listed for, but I want you to give me $25,000 to buy down my interest rate to 4.375. That gets my payment as a buyer to within $70 of what the payment was when it was $100,000 less. Now, the reason why I used this and I wanted to show that your payment actually went up $70 is because there's a deeper long-term financial strategy here that most people will not tell you about, and that is the cost of the interest over time. So I'm going to dig into that, but let me show you first of all why the seller would be doing backflips on this. So the seller benefits obviously because they're pocketing almost 75 grand. Why not? Mr. Seller, give me 25 grand. You get an extra 75 grand. You know what? These numbers are also really good, and it helps me to bring up another point. What I'm typically seeing here is that for every dollar that you pay in discount points, it's worth about $3 in equity, right? So this is pretty consistent across the board. Now, when the markets start to compress and they start to change a little bit, sometimes these dollar amounts move around a little bit, but this formula seems to work over and over again. Now, let's go back to the fact that our payment went up by our payment went up $70, but we have a lower interest rate. And there's also the factor that if you're offering a higher purchase price, then that means your down payment amount goes up more, right? So again, this is the reason why I like these big numbers, because I like to exaggerate these numbers just to drive home the point of how killer this strategy is. So you're offering $100,000 more, you're putting 20% down, so you're really only putting $20,000 back in to the $20,000 more for down payment. Now, if you go back to our straw and our wood houses, our conventional or our high balance houses, we were only talking about 3.5%. And what were we talking about? $15,000, $20,000 higher, so 3.5% of $16,000, 3.5% of $20,000. That's not a lot of money, but here's what the benefit is. So if you were to have, buy down the interest rate, so here's how I want you to look at this. I want you to look at this as a return on investment. So yes, you are going to invest an additional $20,000 towards down payment, but in exchange, you are going to get a 4.25% interest rate. Over a 30-year term, that's $740,000 in interest at 4.25%. Now, that's 4.25% at a $1.2 million purchase price. Okay. Now, if you were to make an offer at $1.1 million at a 5% interest rate, that's $820,000 worth of interest over the term of that loan. So by you investing $20,000 as the down payment, or you investing whatever that difference is between down payment, and offering the higher offering a higher sales price, your return on investment is phenomenal over time, right? So that's why you would offer $20,000 more. Hey, the seller just reduced the price. Why don't I take advantage of that? Well, because they already reduced the price. They're not going to want to give you more money to buy the interest rate down. So you're stuck with a higher interest rate. It's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars over the term of that loan. So as a home buyer, you absolutely win with this strategy. Your offer stands out, right? They just reduced the price. And wait a minute, a price just came in for my listing price before I reduced it? That's going to capture the attention of the seller. Real estate agent's going to look at that and they're going to say, holy cow, slap that sucker right on the top of the deck, and they're going to hand that right over to the seller and say, we just got an offer for the full price. But wait, there's a catch, but that's okay. Catch is going to work in your favor. I'm going to show you how that works. You get a lower payment, right? In those first two scenarios, that conforming and that non-conforming, your payment was actually lower than if you bought the home for a lower price and a higher interest rate. You get the lower interest rate, which is that, and you get that long-term savings. And what I didn't talk to you about is that bona fide discount points is actually a tax deduction. Now, don't take my word for it. You're hearing this from me, but this is not gospel because I am not a licensed CPA or tax preparer. So talk to your tax preparer, your CPA. But what I have been told is that that discount point that the seller paid to you is actually a tax deduction in the year following the year that you purchase your home. So not only are you taking the tax deduction for your mortgage interest and your property taxes, now you have these discount points that you're able to reduce your taxable income by that amount of those discount points. So you get the tax write-off in the year that you bought the home for the interest and the property taxes. Then the following year, not only do you get the property taxes and the mortgage interest, you also get to write off those discount points. So that is an amazing benefit. That is a this year benefit. That is a next year benefit. That is an everyone wins benefit. Pretty easy, right? No problem? Everybody got that? Got your math straightened out? Hell no. This is confusing. This is crazy math. Every single property is different. So every single calculation is going to be different. But you don't have to worry about that. We've got your back. I've been in this business for 20 years, and this is a strategy any experienced professional mortgage loan officer is going to understand this strategy, and they're going to be able to do this for you. Now, where it gets tricky is the real estate agents wrapping their head around how this strategy works. Wait a minute. You're offering me more than asking price, but you're asking us to pay you all this money. Don't worry about it. If you are in California and you give us a call, we are going to call your agent and we're going to call the listing agent on every transaction, and we're going to walk them through. We're going to show them the numbers. We're going to walk them through this strategy. We are going to show them how everybody wins. I think I may have alluded to it earlier, but here's another thing about property value. So if you start reducing home values in a neighborhood, then the next person that buys a home, you've got all of these lower home prices that the appraisal is based off of. So what you actually do when you buy a home if you buy a home at a reduced price, you're actually bringing down the home values for the entire community. And if you're a real estate agent, that's your community and that's your farm. So every time you reduce the sales price, that's impacting every other house that sells in that community. So now in our negotiation, you win as the buyer because you save a ton of money on interest. You get a lower payment. You win as the seller because you pocket a little bit more money. And if you're a real estate agent in this transaction, you're actually preserving the home values in your community. So you're preserving the home values for the next seller. And that is a win-win-win for absolutely everybody. Still confused? Oops, that's no problem. If you've on here, I'm here taking questions, or I will answer any questions that you have. And if you registered for this webinar, if you registered for this class, I'll send you an article that I wrote. Looks like about a month ago. It's a detailed explanation. I got a video on there. I really break down the math and really explain how this is going to work for you. If you are in the state of California, again, I am the branch manager and I'm a partner here at Buy Wise Mortgage, where our goal is to help you to buy wise, borrow smart, and build wealth. And that's what we're talking about here. If you have any questions at all, you can call my assistant, Brandy. She can be reached at brandy@buywisemortgage.com. You can call or text on that phone number, or you can always reach out to us if you're seeing this on Facebook, or if you're seeing this anywhere else. You can always reach out to me, and we're happy to walk you through this. So thank you very much for sitting through this. I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot of math, and it's kind of crazy and a little bit confusing, but I really think that this is one of the smartest strategies you're ever going to see right now, and it's also one of the most little known strategies. So there's kind of an education process that we have to go through here. The very first step is educating you as the home buyer, knowing that this is possible, opening up your opportunities to afford more home. And then we just have to go through and educate the real estate agents and educate the home seller. But that's no problem, because as you've seen in example after example after example, this is a win-win-win for absolutely everybody involved. So thank you very much. I appreciate you being here, and look forward to hearing from you soon.